You think you're so smart, don't you? Always reading, always with your nose in a book. Well, let me tell you something, Mother. You've wasted your entire life. 62 years old, and what do you have to show for it? Nothing. No career, no accomplishments, no legacy. Just an old woman who cooked and cleaned while the rest of us actually achieved something. My daughter, Victoria, stood in my living room, designer handbag clutched to her chest, looking at me like I was something she'd scraped off her expensive Italian heels. I was sitting in my favorite armchair, a cup of tea growing cold on the side table, a novel open in my lap. The afternoon sun was streaming through the window, catching the dust motes in the air. It was a peaceful moment, right up until it wasn't. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I smiled. "You're right, sweetheart. I've done absolutely nothing with my life." She blinked. She'd expected tears, maybe an argument. She'd prepared for me to defend myself, but I just agreed. And that, dear friends, was the beginning of the most educational 3 months of my daughter's life. Welcome to my channel. I share new life stories here every day, and I would truly appreciate it if you hit subscribe and gave this video a like. Now, let's continue with the story. I'm sure you'll find it worth your time until the very end. My name is Eleanor. I'm 62 years old, and until that moment last September, I thought I had a close relationship with my only daughter. I thought wrong. Let me give you some background. I married my husband, Richard, when I was 22. We met at a church picnic in our small town in Ohio. He was handsome, ambitious, studying to be a doctor. I was studying literature, dreaming of being a writer someday. We fell in love fast and married faster. Richard's career took off. Mine didn't. Or rather, mine never got started. When Victoria was born, Richard and I agreed that I would stay home. His residency hours were brutal. Someone needed to be there for our daughter. I set aside my writing dreams, telling myself it was temporary. I'd go back to it when Victoria started school. Then Richard's practice grew. We moved to a bigger house in a better neighborhood. There were dinner parties to host, a social calendar to maintain, a household to run. My writing stayed in a drawer, literally and figuratively. I didn't resent it at the time. I loved being Victoria's mother. I drove her to ballet lessons and piano recitals. I helped with homework and hosted sleepovers. I was room mother, PTA president, fundraiser organizer. I was there for every scraped knee, every broken heart, every triumph and disappointment. Richard worked long hours. He was a good provider but an absent father. When he came home, he was tired. He'd eat the dinner I prepared, watch some television, and go to bed. On weekends, he played golf. That was his time to decompress, he said. He needed it. I never had time to decompress, but I never complained either. Victoria grew up smart and driven. She went to Stanford, then Harvard Law. She became a corporate attorney in Manhattan, making more money in a year than Richard and I had made in 10. She married an investment banker named Preston. They have a penthouse overlooking Central Park and a summer house in the Hamptons. I was proud of her. So proud. But somewhere along the way, my daughter started looking down on me. It happened gradually. First, it was little comments. "Mom, you really should update your wardrobe. Mom, this casserole is so homey. Mom, do you ever think about doing something with your life now that Dad's gone?" Richard died 4 years ago. Heart attack, sudden and swift. 40 years of marriage, and then he was just gone. The house felt enormous without him. The silence was deafening. I thought Victoria would be my comfort. Instead, she seemed annoyed by my grief. "It's been 6 months, Mom. You need to move on. Join a club or something. Take a cruise. Stop moping around that old house." That old house where I raised her. That old house filled with 40 years of memories. That old house that I loved. After Richard died, I discovered 2 things. First, that his life insurance and pension left me comfortable but not wealthy. Second, that I finally had time to write. I started quietly, just for myself, at first. Stories about women like me, women whose lives had been spent in service to others, women who had dreams they'd set aside, women who wondered what might have been. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The day Victoria called me a waste of life, she had come to Ohio for a specific reason. She wanted to discuss my situation. meaning my finances, my living arrangement, my future. "Preston and I have been talking," she said, settling onto my sofa like she owned it. "This house is too big for you. The upkeep must be exhausting. The property taxes alone must be eating through Dad's pension." I said nothing. "We think you should sell it. Move into one of those senior living communities. They have activities, social events. You wouldn't be so alone." "I'm not alone," I said. "I have my books, my garden, my friends from church." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Mom, that's not a life. That's just existing. Don't you want more? Don't you want to actually accomplish something before?" She trailed off. "Before I die?" She had the grace to look uncomfortable. "That's not what I meant." "What do you mean, Victoria? Tell me exactly what accomplishments I should be pursuing at 62. That's when she said it. The thing about me wasting my life, about having nothing to show for it, about being just an old woman who cooked and cleaned. Just an old woman who cooked and cleaned. I smiled and agreed with her, and then I said, "You know what, sweetheart? You're absolutely right. I've contributed nothing of value to this family, so from now on, I won't pretend otherwise. You and Preston are so successful, so accomplished. You don't need anything from me, and I certainly have nothing to offer." Victoria nodded, satisfied. "I'm glad you understand, Mom. Now, about the house. I'm not selling the house, but that's not up for discussion. Now, I have some reading to do. Let me walk you to the door." Her face cycled through confusion, irritation, and finally a cold kind of acceptance. "Fine, we'll talk about this later." "I'm sure we will." After she left, I sat in my quiet house and began to make a plan. The first thing I did was open my laptop and log into my bank account. Not my regular checking account. The other one. The one nobody knew about. You see, 15 years ago, I started doing something I never told anyone. Not Richard, not Victoria, not even my sister. I started writing stories and submitting them to magazines. Small publications at first, the kind that paid $50 for a short piece, then bigger ones, then anthologies, then literary journals. The rejection letters came in waves, but so did the acceptances. I developed a pen name, Margaret Stone. I opened a separate bank account and a P.O. box in the next town over. Over 15 years, Margaret Stone had published 43 short stories, won 2 regional writing awards, and built a small but loyal readership. She had a literary agent in New York who had been asking her, for the past 3 years, to write a novel. The balance in Margaret Stone's account was $127,000. All earned from my writing. All saved in secret. Why did I keep it secret? At first, because I wasn't sure it would go anywhere. Then, because Richard would have made it about him. He would have bragged to his golf buddies about his talented wife. He would have expected me to use the money for things he wanted. A new car. A vacation to Scotland. An addition to the house. And Victoria? She would have found a way to diminish it. "That's nice, Mom, but it's not exactly a real career, is it? I mean, short stories. Who reads those?" So I kept Margaret Stone to myself. She was mine. The only thing that was truly, completely mine. After Victoria left that day, I looked at my bank balance and made a decision. It was time for Margaret Stone to write that novel. And it was time for Eleanor Mitchell to stop being available whenever her daughter decided she needed something. The first test came 2 weeks later. Victoria called on a Tuesday afternoon. "Mom, I need a huge favor. Preston's boss is coming to dinner on Saturday, and our regular caterer is booked. I need you to come to New York and cook for us. You make that incredible beef Wellington. Preston's been bragging about it." In the past, I would have dropped everything. I would have been on a plane the next morning, spending 3 days cooking and cleaning and making sure everything was perfect for my daughter's important dinner party. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I can't make it this weekend." Silence. Then, "What do you mean you can't make it?" "I have plans." "What plans? What could possibly be more important than helping your daughter?" I thought about my writing desk, where Chapter 3 of my novel was waiting. I thought about the characters who had finally started speaking to me after months of silence. I thought about the peace I felt when I was lost in a story. I have a commitment I can't break. What commitment? "Mom, I need you." This dinner could make or break Preston's promotion. Then I suggest you find a good caterer. Or learn to cook yourself. The beef Wellington recipe is in the blue binder I gave you at your wedding. I don't have time to cook. I'm a lawyer, Mom. I work 80 hours a week. And I'm retired, which means I get to choose how I spend my time. I'm choosing to spend this weekend here, in my home, doing what I want to do. Victoria's voice went cold. I can't believe you're being so selfish. I'm sorry you feel that way. Good luck with your dinner party. I hung up. My heart was pounding. In 62 years, I had never hung up on my daughter. I had never said no to her. I had never put my own needs first. It felt terrifying. It also felt wonderful. The dinner party, I learned later from my sister-in-law, was a disaster. Victoria tried to make beef Wellington herself. She burned the pastry and undercooked the meat. Preston's boss got food poisoning. The promotion went to someone else. Victoria blamed me, of course. If you had just come when I asked, she said in a furious voicemail. But no, you had to be selfish. You had to put yourself first for once in your life. I hope you're happy, Mother. Preston is devastated. I listened to the message while sitting at my writing desk, a cup of tea steaming beside me, Chapter 5 taking shape on my screen. I was happy. Happier than I'd been in years. The second test came at Thanksgiving. For 40 years, Thanksgiving had been my production. I would spend a week preparing. The turkey, brined and roasted to perfection. The stuffing, my grandmother's recipe. The pies, made from scratch. The house decorated with autumn leaves and candles. The table set with the good china. Victoria and her family would arrive on Wednesday evening. I would have their rooms ready, fresh flowers on the nightstand, their favorite snacks in the guest bathroom. They would eat my food, sleep in my clean sheets, and leave on Sunday without so much as helping with the dishes. This year, I didn't send the usual invitation. Victoria called the week before Thanksgiving, irritated. Mom, we haven't discussed the holiday. What time should we arrive on Wednesday? Oh, I'm not hosting this year. Dead silence. What do you mean you're not hosting? You always host. I decided to do something different. I'm going to a writer's retreat in Vermont. I leave Tuesday and won't be back until the following Monday. A writer's retreat? What are you talking about? Since when do you write? I paused, considering how much to reveal. I've been writing for a while, actually. It's something I enjoy. But it's Thanksgiving. It's tradition. Traditions can change. You and Preston can host this year. Your penthouse is certainly big enough. Or you could go to his parents' place in Connecticut. His mother's cooking is terrible. And I don't have time to host. I told you. I work constantly. Then order catering. There are wonderful services in Manhattan. That's not the point. The point is family. The point is being together. Is it? I asked quietly. Because last time you were here, you told me I'd wasted my entire life and had nothing to offer. If that's true, then it shouldn't matter whether I'm at Thanksgiving or not. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? She didn't answer. Have a lovely Thanksgiving, sweetheart. I'll call you when I'm back from Vermont. The writer's retreat was magical. I was surrounded by other writers, people who understood the joy of crafting sentences, the agony of writer's block, the thrill of a scene that finally comes together. For 5 days, I worked on my novel, attended workshops, and had conversations that fed my soul. I didn't think about Victoria once. When I returned home, I had 37 missed calls and a dozen voicemails. Victoria was furious. Preston's family's Thanksgiving had been tense and uncomfortable. Their son, my 12-year-old grandson Bradley, had asked where Grandma was and had cried when told I wasn't coming. That last part hurt. I loved Bradley. He was a sweet boy, quieter than his parents, more thoughtful. He reminded me of myself at that age, always reading, always dreaming. I called Victoria back. Before she could start yelling, I said, I'd like to have Bradley come stay with me for Christmas break. Just him. I think we could both use some quality time together. Victoria sputtered. After you abandoned us at Thanksgiving, you think I'm going to send my son to Ohio? I didn't abandon anyone. I made different plans. As for Bradley, the invitation stands. He can help me in the kitchen. I'll teach him to make Christmas cookies, the way I taught you. We can read books together, take walks in the snow, It might be good for him to spend time somewhere quiet. He has activities, tutoring, test prep. He's 12. He's preparing for the right high school, which leads to the right college, which leads to the right life. The right life, I repeated. And what does Bradley want? She didn't answer. I wasn't surprised when, 2 weeks later, Victoria called to say that Bradley had been asking non-stop about staying with Grandma. He'd even promised to keep up with his tutoring if he could go. Fine, Victoria said, as if she were granting a great concession. But only for 1 week, and he needs to do his reading list for school. Of course. I'm looking forward to it. Bradley arrived 3 days before Christmas, pale and anxious, clutching a backpack full of test prep books. Within 48 hours, the color had returned to his cheeks. He helped me bake cookies. He learned to make hot chocolate from scratch. He read by the fireplace while I wrote at my desk. In the evenings, we played board games and watched old movies. On Christmas Eve, while we were decorating the tree together, he said, "Grandma, Mom says you don't do anything important, but this feels important to me." My eyes stung. "This is important to me too, sweetheart." "She's always stressed," he continued quietly. "She and Dad fight about money, even though they have lots of it. She's never home. When she is home, she's on her phone. I don't think she's happy." "What about you? Are you happy?" He thought about it. "I'm happy here. I wish I could stay longer." "You can come back any time. This is your home too." He hugged me. 12 years old and still willing to hug his grandmother. I held on to that moment like a precious gift. The day after Christmas, my literary agent called with news. A publisher was interested in my novel. They wanted to offer a contract. Would I be willing to come to New York for a meeting in January? I said yes. I didn't tell Victoria I was coming. I flew to New York, met with the publisher, signed a contract for 2 books with a 6-figure advance, and flew home. All without my daughter knowing I was in her city. It wasn't spite. It was simply that my writing life and my daughter's opinion of me existed in separate worlds. I wasn't ready to merge them yet. In March, things came to a head. Victoria called. Frantic. "Mom, I need you. Can you come to New York this weekend? It's important." Something in her voice made me pause. This wasn't her usual imperious demand. She sounded fragile. "What's wrong?" A long pause. Then, quietly, Preston moved out. I was on a plane the next morning. The penthouse was a mess. Victoria looked worse. She hadn't slept in days, hadn't eaten properly, hadn't showered. She was sitting on her designer sofa in sweatpants, surrounded by crumpled tissues. "What happened?" I asked, sitting beside her. It came out in fragments. Preston had been having an affair. For 2 years. With a younger associate at his firm. He told Victoria on Valentine's Day, then moved out while she was at work the following week. He wanted a divorce. He wanted to marry the other woman. How could I not see it? Victoria kept asking. "I'm a lawyer. I notice everything. How did I miss this?" I thought about my own marriage, about all the things I'd noticed and ignored, about the compromises I'd made for 40 years. Sometimes we don't see because we don't want to see. She cried for hours. I held her, made her tea, forced her to eat some soup. When she finally fell into an exhausted sleep, I cleaned her kitchen, did her laundry, made sure her refrigerator had food in it. The next morning, she was calmer but still fragile. We sat at her breakfast table, looking out at Central Park, and she said, "I don't understand how you did it, Mom. 40 years with Dad. Didn't you ever want more?" "More what?" "More. Everything. A career, independence, something of your own." I thought about Margaret Stone, about the novel that would be published in September, about the secret life I'd built in the margins of my invisible one. "I have something of my own," I said carefully. "I've had it for a long time. I just didn't tell anyone about it." Victoria looked at me, confused. I took a deep breath. "There's something I need to show you." I opened my laptop and pulled up Margaret Stone's website. Her photo wasn't on it, just an illustration of a pen and inkwell, but her bibliography was there. 43 published stories, 2 awards, a forthcoming novel from a major publisher. "This is me," I said. "Margaret Stone is my pen name." Victoria stared at the screen. "I don't understand." "You're a writer?" "I've been writing for 15 years. I never told anyone." Not your father, not you. It was mine. The only thing that was truly mine. Why didn't you tell me? I chose my words carefully. Because I was afraid you'd diminish it. The way you diminished everything else I did. Every meal I cooked, every moment I spent raising you, every year I dedicated to this family, none of it mattered to you. You told me I'd wasted my life, that I had nothing to show for it. Victoria's face crumpled. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean. You did mean it. At least in that moment. And maybe you're right. Maybe I did waste decades doing things that don't count in the world's eyes. But here's what I've learned, sweetheart. The world's eyes aren't the only measure of a life. I turned the laptop toward her. This novel I wrote, it's about women like me, women who gave everything to their families and were told it wasn't enough, women who had dreams they set aside, women who found themselves at 60, wondering if it was too late to become who they were meant to be. Victoria was crying again, but differently now. Is it too late? For people like that? No. It's never too late. That's the whole point of the book. She reached for my hand. Mom, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so ashamed of myself. I don't want your shame. I want your understanding. I want you to see me, really see me, for maybe the first time in your life. I see you, she whispered. I finally see you. We talked for hours after that. Really talked, in a way we hadn't in years. She told me about her marriage, about the cracks she'd ignored, about the loneliness of her successful life. I told her about my writing, about the characters who had kept me company, about the dreams I'd deferred and the ones I was finally pursuing. She asked if she could read my novel when it came out. I said yes. Before I left New York, I did one more thing. I showed her the bank account, the $127,000 I'd saved from my writing. Her eyes went wide. Mom, that's incredible. It's my accomplishment, I said. My legacy. It's not small, she said firmly. It's not small at all. 3 months later, my novel was published. It was called The Invisible Woman, and it debuted at number 14 on the New York Times bestseller list. The reviews called it a triumph of late-blooming talent and a love letter to unsung women everywhere. Victoria flew to Ohio for my book launch party at the local bookstore. She stood in the back, watching me read to a crowd of 70 people who had come to celebrate Margaret Stone's debut novel. Afterward, she hugged me. I'm so proud of you, Mom, and I'm so sorry it took me this long to see who you really are. What matters is that you see me now. Bradley was there too, beaming. He'd read the book, staying up past his bedtime to finish it. Grandma, I want to be a writer too. Will you teach me? I would love nothing more. Victoria is doing better now. The divorce was finalized last month. She's taking time off work, reevaluating her priorities. She calls me every Sunday, not to ask for anything, just to talk. We're building something new between us, something more honest than what we had before. Last week, she said something that made me cry. Mom, I spent so many years trying to be successful by the world's standards. Money, titles, achievements. I thought that's what mattered. But watching you, seeing what you built in secret, seeing the joy you get from your writing, I realized I had it all wrong. You didn't waste your life. You were building something beautiful the whole time. I was just too blind to see it. I'm working on my second novel now. It's about a mother and daughter who have to learn to see each other clearly, across the gulf of years and misunderstanding. It's fiction, but it's also true. My editor says it might be even better than the first one. To any woman listening to this who has ever been told she's not enough, who has ever felt invisible in her own life, who has ever wondered if it's too late for her dreams, I want you to know something. Your value doesn't depend on other people seeing it. You can build something beautiful in the margins, in the quiet moments, in the space between what the world demands and what your soul needs. And when you're ready, when the time is right, you can step into the light and show them all what you've been becoming while they weren't paying attention. It's not too late. It's never too late. Bradley is calling me now. He's written a short story and wants me to read it. He's spending spring break with me again. Victoria didn't even hesitate when he asked. I can hear him in the other room, chattering excitedly about his characters, his plot, his ideas. My grandson wants to be a writer. And I, the grandmother who supposedly wasted her life, am going to teach him. Some legacies aren't measured in money or titles. Some legacies are measured in the love we pass on, the dreams we nurture, the people we help become who they're meant to be. That's the legacy I'm building now, and it's worth more than any bestseller list could ever show. I am really glad you are here and that I could share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is. I am so curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. If you want to support me a little extra, you can also send a small donation. I share new life stories for you every single day. And now 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen, so you can choose what to watch next.